In this video, I'm going to review and give you a little bit more details on the anchor position for recurve style archery. So I've already done basically the entire form series up to this date. If you haven't seen all of my form videos, check out the link in the description below, plus I'll put a card up at the top here so that way you can check them out. But essentially, I've already taken you through the KSL shot cycle, the NTS system, the best method, whatever you want to call it, from bottom to top. And I've had a lot of questions specific to the anchor position with people having difficulty getting into either the proper anchor position, feeling enough pressure, keeping their string alignment, and things along those lines. So I'm going to cover that in this video today. If you're new here, my name is Jay Kaminsky. I'm a two-time Olympic silver medalist in the sport of archery. I'm working to make this channel a great resource to all types of archery. So if you haven't by now, hit that subscription button and the notification bell. That way you're notified every time a new video is uploaded. I'm uploading a lot of content lately, trying to make you a better archer and reduce the growing pains that I had when I was coming up in the sport. You're watching the Jay Kaminsky YouTube channel. Like I said, there is a fair amount of questions out there regarding anchor position. And actually a lot of my Patreon supporters and my patrons have asked me specifically about anchoring because they're really having a hard time either feeling the amount of pressure that I recommended, or more importantly, and kind of the limiting factor, keeping their string alignment while they are anchoring. So a lot of that has to do with head position in many different axes. And so I'm going to do my best to answer those questions and try to expand upon the information I've already given you. Now, if you are interested in becoming a Patreon supporter, I would really appreciate that. There'll be a link in the description below, plus I'll put a card up at the top. There's several different options to support this channel. Ultimately, I'm producing all this content for free. They do get exclusive like first looks at the videos. They get early access to most of these videos. Sometimes a few days in advance. There's a few digital downloads, discounts to apparel, coaching options, and actually a Discord server now, so we can have a bit of a community within the archery community to discuss more things that we're trying to work on, from form to tuning, exercises, you name it. So it's actually become quite a great resource. So if you're interested in that, like I said, check out those links. Okay, so the anchor. I've covered it in detail. There for sure will be a link in the description below where you can check out that video in case you haven't. And I really would recommend checking out the rest of the form series. There is a lot of information packed into just, well, it's a couple hours of content now, but it is a lot of information. And with everybody being kind of holed up around the world right now, what better time to spend some more effort and energy while you're cooped up in the house to make yourself a better archer, right? I talked about anchoring up bone to bone with a lot of pressure, more stability. And, a lot of people have said, I can't get into that position. I just can't get in deep enough. So a couple of reasons why you may not be able to get in underneath your jaw. There's a couple reasons. One of those could be simply how far you are turning your head. If I turn my head less and I have alignment, I won't be able to see over my nose because that won't work for me. But if I put the string in the corner of my chin like I'm supposed to, look at where my hand is relative to my chin. You can see how it's very far out, right? If I had my head turned more, now I put the string in the corner of my chin where it's supposed to be, and now I can touch my anchor on my face. And it is simply because if this is where you're supposed to anchor, and you look, if I have my head turned less, you can't see my jaw here. If I have my head turned more, now you can see my jaw here. And all that's doing is essentially moving this position out further relative to your chin, so you now have a platform to go on. Because if you don't, you'd have to bend your wrist this way to get into anchor, which is not ideal. We already talked about the wrist position. So some of it can be from the head position, head turn. Turning your head different amounts can change your string alignment. But a way to combat that is to then change your head tilt to coincide with the head turn to figure out your optimal string alignment. It's pretty simple. If I have my string here where I'm supposed to be, and if I change my head, and if you look at the relationship between the string and my right eyeball, if I tilt my head this way, the string is moving further this way. And if I tilt my head towards the bow, the string moves that way. So depending on how the string changes with more or less head turn, you just can adjust your string alignment with your head tilt. So even with Barebow, with a higher anchor, I tilt my head towards the right to get my proper string alignment. I don't change my head position because that's changing my alignment a lot. Yeah, I don't have, according to most Barebow shooters, the optimal Barebow anchor, but that's where I'm sticking with it for now. Now, there's been questions about how to get more pressure up and into the neck. Part of that, the pressure in, is going to come from bicep tension. You do have to have a little bit of bicep tension. When you say get as much into your back as possible, use as much back tension as possible, that is correct. But it's not something that you have to have. You don't have to have 100% back tension and 0% arm tension. If you did, all of this posterior chain back here would not be in one piece. You do need to have a minimal amount of arm tension, but you should have some so that way you're stabilized. In the other anchor video, I talked about a tight anchor is a stable anchor, and ultimately you'll shake less, your sight will move less, and all of those things. And everybody I've been working with up until this point, coaching them, has absolutely felt and seen less movement in their shot when they have a tighter anchor. Especially when people just kind of barely touch their face and then things are shifting and floating around. You see that very common with people who have a hard time getting through the clicker. They have a very soft anchor, and as they're struggling to get through their clicker, their draw length is changing on their face. It may not be sliding on their skin, but their skin is sliding on the bone in their jaw, and that's moving their draw length. So if you crush up and get bone to bone, you don't have any movement anymore. So it's really not too tricky, too complicated, too difficult. And I hate to say it, it's as simple as just push up harder into your anchor, push harder into your neck. Just do it. It's really not that tricky. If you're out in space like this, obviously pushing up into your anchor is not going to work because there's nothing there. Even if you're using a shelf, you can still push hard up into your jaw with that shelf. Totally fine. This is something that I'm not setting out to change everybody's form out there. I'm ultimately just trying to give you some more information so that way you can pick and choose bits and pieces to make yourself a better archer. So a tighter anchor absolutely will just make you a better archer to begin with, regardless of the method that you actually do use to shoot your bow. In previous videos, I have covered what is the most important steps to make you a better archer, regardless of the style, especially that tension and direction video. So like I said, there's a lot of these videos in the form series already. So if you haven't checked them out, I would if I was you. Thanks for watching, and thank you to my Patreon supporters. If you want to become a Patreon supporter or check out books, apparel, and some seminar info, head to jkaminski.com, and be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell to be notified every time a new video is uploaded. And I appreciate you watching. Thank you again.